Ladies and gentlemen, it's myself and CP Zwane back again with another episode of Sludge Underground podcast. Before we start, I want to give a huge shout out to my homie Marcel and Saturn Return. They delivered an epic episode last week, so if you haven't tuned in, do yourself a favor, visit our website www.sludgeunderground.com and listen to that because it's all kinds of fire. Today, I've got my special guest SPX, who's a singer-songwriter operating out in Johannesburg, and she was born and bred in Pretoria and then moved to Empangeni in KZN. So I need you to tell me, SPX, having resided in both places, I know you moved at a very young age from Pretoria, but what is it that you carry with you from both places, so both Pretoria and Empangeni, considering that you've basically been resident in both of those at some time in the past?
I didn't really get to experience Pretoria that much, but I spent basically the entirety of my life in Empangeni until obviously I came to Joburg in 2018 for school. But with Empangeni, what I've taken from it is just family and my family influences and just everything that has to do with family.
When I think of Empangeni, I automatically think of Umuzi, as an artist. And looking at how dope you and him are, basically, would you say that Empangeni is sort of like a breeding ground for dope talent?
I think Empangeni has so many creatives. I just remember in high school, there were so many people making music and, whether they actually went on to become artists is obviously a different story because everyone's journey is different, but there's a lot of people that I met growing up that were making music and rapping and singing, and it's always been such a cultural place and such an artistic place. And I think honestly everywhere is it's just about the exposure to it, which is crazy because Empangeni is such a small town and everyone knows everyone. That's how small it is, but we still found ways to be exposed to creative outlets, which is not common in towns. Most towns focus on maybe other things, for other people to get out of the town. But you wouldn't think that people use their artistic abilities to get out of a town and explore the world. But it's quite evident where I'm from. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, considering the fact that you actually went to Joburg to study, next thing, you making waves, in the Johannesburg music scene and obviously South Africa as a whole. Would you say that music ever became a distraction? Did it ever distract you or take away, from the studies at all?
Music only came in my second year of university. It didn't really get in between anything. I managed to juggle both. I'm still juggling both. It was perfectly fine. It wasn't like an issue or anything.
Yeah, and how did your family actually feel about you, making music while pursuing your studies as well? Were they supportive or were they sort of worried that it might sort of get in the way or any concerns at all?
So with my creative endeavors, my family's always been pretty supportive in general. I think the biggest, feeling that everyone kind of had, especially my parents, was just maybe just wait until you graduate and then, but I'm so stubborn. And when I want to do something, I want to do it and I'm going to do it. And so I just did it and I guess proved that I could do it. And so they kind of stopped feeling like they had to be worried because they could see that I was able to, still study for exams as well as drop a music video and have no real hassle, with anything. And I was able to prioritize. I knew that during exam season, I really need to focus on, schoolwork and not do too much of the music stuff. And also there's no real pressure to because I'm a student first. I had that I knew what I was doing, and I had a goal, and I had I don't know how to put this, but I was going to make it happen regardless. And so they kind of stopped worrying, and they just went full force in supporting me.
Looking at the fact that you can't fully focus, all your attention on your music career, considering that you're juggling it, with the education and your studies and such, would you say that sort of places you at a disadvantage at all?
I think so, but I also don't think so. I want to focus my all into the music, and I do as much as I'm able to, of course. Obviously, I know that if I was, it's a different story, I guess, if I was, doing only music and there was no school in the picture. But I also think for me, it's just about, finishing what I started, and that's the schooling part. And so I just want to finish what I started before I can fully immerse myself in something. I never want to have anything half done. I never want to have anything, any dream, any goal half complete. So I have to complete everything. I have to, whether that's with music, whether that's with whatever I'm doing, it has to be all done. It all has to all be done right. So irrespective of how I may feel about something, or whether I feel like maybe if this and that doesn't change that, I want to have everything that I do in my life completely done, irrespective of the situation.
I really admire your drive, and I can see why your family ended up being really comfortable with the fact that, you're making music while pursuing your studies. But, support could mean various things. It could mean financial support. It could mean, they pull through to gigs. I want to find out if they actually listen to the music, and considering the fact that you are very much explicit, with the things that you write about and the relationships, and the issues that you've been through, pertaining relationships. Now, bearing that in mind, how do they feel about the sort of content that you write about within your music? Are they comfortable with that at all?
They do. They do listen. They do listen to my music. They're not judgmental at all, especially my parents. They're not judgmental. They're as long as I'm happy with what I'm producing, what I'm releasing, what I'm giving to the world, they're happy. Whether that's with the music videos and the stories that I tell in my music videos and the content that I share on as long as I'm content, they're perfectly okay with that.
Oh, that is very sweet. It's always good hearing about, families and parents that are supportive of their children. How did you get to a point where you were comfortable enough to actually open up about the sort of things that you open up, about within your music, and not sort of feel self-conscious or feel some type of way? It must have taken a lot.
I would be lying if I said that I didn't feel like, certain things were too much to share, or certain things were, just things that I wasn't really all the way there comfortable with sharing. But I also know that there's no real change, or there's nothing beautiful that can happen, or there's no help that can happen from, helping others, or, talking, relating to others, and doing all these magnificent things in the world. Those things cannot happen from your comfort zone. And I've always been one person to push myself to get out of my comfort zone, because there's so much that happens when you step out of that shell and you step into other parts of yourself. And that's what it's kind of been for me. I know that from the artists that I listen to, what I've always loved about them is that they step out of their comfort zone. They tell us personal things, and they tell us things about their relationships, and they tell us all these things that in the most beautiful way as well. But they tell us all these things and makes us feel not alone. It makes us feel like we're being heard, makes us feel seen, makes us feel loved, it makes us feel all these things. And just in general, I just really want people in the world to feel comfortable with opening up and not feel self-conscious about it, or feel like they have to second guess the things that they're saying, or second guess their truth and their experiences and their heartbreak and their sadness, or their happiness. I don't want people to feel like they have to contain themselves. I really want people to open up. And so I have to be the example. I have to be the one to open up so that whenever people are listening to my music or they're even around me, they feel comfortable to be like, listen, this is me, this is who I am, because you show me who you are. So yeah, that's how I go about it. It's not, once you release the music, it stops being about you and it starts being about the people that you want, to receive the music. It starts being about your audience, starts being about how this music would make them feel. It stops being about my heartbreak from 2020 or 2021. It starts being about them.
Yeah, and I think the beauty about that is that, no one is going through the exact same heartbreak that SBX went through herself. So that makes you very genuine, considering that your story is unique to you, which leads me to the question about your writing process. And that whenever you write a song, is it with the intention of, writing something to release, or is it more of like a therapy session for you, more like a dear diary type thing, except, it's not something that you're going to keep to yourself, but something that, the rest of the world is able to then sort of, listen to in the end. Walk me through your writing process.
For me, it's definitely a therapy session. It's a way for me to just kind of understand my emotions. Sometimes for the longest time, at least in my life, I've had difficulty understanding or processing my emotions in healthy ways or just in general. And it became about me almost just figuring out how exactly I feel through the music. And I don't think when I write, I'm thinking too much about the fact that I have to release this one day. I think more about the fact that I need to release myself from what I'm feeling right now. And all I can do is be honest. And then when it comes to the point where I'm ready to release music, I know that I wrote something maybe a couple months ago that was really honest. And I want people to hear that because I've processed it. I've understood it. I've written it down. I've sung the song. I've gone over it in my head a number of times. It's the therapy process, and now it's when I release it, it's that last part of that therapy, that release part, that giving it to the world, that giving it to people. It's almost like a book. When you write a book about your life and you detail everything and you process everything and you revisit everything and then you give it to the world and stops being about you. It becomes a part of you, but it stops being about you. That's the way that I look at it before I think of anything, before I think of releasing anything, before I think of Apple Music, Spotify. I think about, this is my process. I need to process what I'm going through. I'm going to use music. I'm going to use lyricism, and I'm going to figure it out through the song.
Very beautiful. Now, looking at the fact that, these songs are about you and these songs are about you too, are basically projects that would entail or that would need for you to have gone through some sort of heartbreak or some sort of relationship issue. What would you actually be writing about if you weren't at that stage in your life where you're not dating and such? What would be the subject matter?
That is such an interesting question. I have absolutely no idea because I kind of always feel like, I don't want to be a one-trick pony, but I feel like right now I'm just thriving so much from writing about those romantic situations. I honestly don't know what else I would write about. I don't want people to think that all I do is get into relationships so I can have content for my music. No, I promise I'm not. I don't know. There's a I don't know. There's a element of pleasure that I've always sort of had from writing about those things, because I feel like a lot of people go through that. If there's one thing that people really go through in unison, it's relationships, and whether that's friendships or anything in between. I feel like it's the first go-to. That's why there's so many dating shows. And I think I don't really know what else I'd be writing about, because this is what pours out of my heart. at least right now.
But I think anyone who would label you a one-trick pony would be misinformed. I mean, For My Brother isn't really about a romantic relationship, but more of like a family, type thing. So they'd definitely be misinformed on that one there. But looking at, what we've just spoken about and what you just told me now, would you say that there wouldn't be an SBX, or your music career wouldn't be a thing if it weren't for those relationships? Like, would you say that part of the reason why you made music, was because of those relationships? Like, did they spark you, getting into this music career?
I don't want to give other people too much credit for something that I believe was going to happen regardless. But I do think that you meet people for a reason, and sometimes that reason is to write an entire EP about them, and that's going to have people listen to your music more and listen to your music and relate to it and all these beautiful things. But I don't think I would necessarily give them the credit and say that they are the reason for it all, because I do feel like I would be doing this regardless. I'd find something to talk about. If I was someone who had never ever been in a relationship before, I would find something to talk about. I'd find my place, I think. But I do think those experiences did motivate me to get back into songwriting and explore like what kind of songwriter I am, and explore the subject matter that I'm comfortable speaking about, and just explore the therapy that I really need to actually go through when it comes to romantic relationships, and heal that, and find myself in those experiences, in those moments, in those memories. But yeah, I think that's as far as I can take it. I think you meet people for a reason, for sure.
Yeah.
And as much as the situations might be kind of shitty, but yeah, it all works out in the end, I think.
These songs are about you, and these songs are about you too are basically 2 years apart. So are you singing about one relationship here, or are you singing about maybe two or multiple sort of experiences that you've had, within maybe past relationships?
Definitely different experiences. Yeah, just different experiences, but just, I guess, almost an extension of each other. Because I mean, the songs in the first EP were written about whoever and whatever, and it almost felt as if those experiences and the healing that needed to take place there then was pouring into these songs, just with different experiences and different people. But yeah, no, definitely not the same person, not linear whatsoever. Wow, like imagine if it was like the same person. I feel like they would be so happy about themselves to have gotten 16 songs about them. Good for them, but no, it's not one person.
on on Jews, there's a line there where you speak about a certain male that tells you that you can see your worth. Now, considering the buzz and everything, I mean, you've got a music video out, that plays on television. There's a lot of good things happening right now. You're in the public eye. Everything is going really well. How do you sort of ascertain whether a person who is maybe courting you, or a person that may be interested in you, is actually being genuine, considering, the success, that you've sort of obtained over time?
I mean, first and foremost, clearly I can't tell, because with Jews, when I was commenting on those things, I was commenting in the sense that this is what you said I was to you, but that's not how you behaved. So clearly I'm not good at telling the difference. So I will then remain single and just focus on making music.
So for anyone who's listening to this who might have been interested, you're not looking for a relationship right now. You're off.
I'm off in the sense that I'm married to the music,
Mm-hmm.
and I am focusing on myself. Unless, of course, your name is Jack Harlow, that's a different story. But until then, it's just music for me.
Yeah, Jack Harlow, if you're listening to this, man, hit her up. But looking at the fact that these songs are about you, is a tape that I really enjoyed. Conversate is a standout track for me, probably my favorite. And then you were on the solid run where you had Conversate, and then you had Time, and your beat selection on the first one was insane. So you can imagine that people, along with myself, must have been really excited when you released, these songs are about you too this year. So tell me a bit more about that. Which producers you worked with, or rather, how many producers you worked with, and just we know what the subject matter is about. So just fill me in on anything else, that is, interesting about, the process, that you went through when you were making These Songs Are About You Too.
So no one knows this, but These Songs Are About You was actually supposed to drop in December. It didn't, because we went through it was supposed to be a completely different EP to what everyone ended up hearing. I'm glad that the decision at the end was what we released. I don't think I would have been happy with what we wanted to release, but yeah, so it was just a process, and it took a while to just get everything together. It took some of the songs are about a year old. Most of them, though, are recent songs. Most of them are from 2021. And it was just about getting into studio and recording it and getting everything mastered and everything in top shape. And even that part took a while. I think it took us about like a month and some change to really complete the mastering process. It took us a long time. We thought it was going to take shorter, but I'm a perfectionist, so we had to really go in and out of that process. And I worked with some really talented producers, some that were on the first EP. The first EP had City Santana and Sunny the Maker, and this EP had City Santana, Sunny the Maker, Brian Tamula, Looney on a Tune, Influenza. We had some really talented. We had a number of people who came in for this one, which I think was necessary, because I didn't want it to be a regurgitation of the first EP, just same beat, same people. I really wanted it to be different. I wanted people to hear that we've grown in terms of musicality, but we're still singing about the same shit. We're still feeling the same way. We've just grown into it more. We've understood it a bit better, and we're more honest. But yeah, and then we dropped it in January, and dropping it was so nerve-wracking, but we did it, and now we're here.
Yeah, and you mentioned we a lot, and I know that I asked you about which producers you were working with, but when you mention we, who specifically are you talking about? It sounds like you've got a team behind you that's assisting you and helping with the push and stuff, while you have the music on lock. So tell us a bit more about your team. Who is the we that you are mentioning?
Yeah, when I say we, I just mean my team. I just mean my team. We work endless hours every single day, making sure that we get anything and everything that we do off the ground. And we do it ourselves, and we do it with no extra help. We do it, completely independent, and it's a lot of work, and it's tiresome and stressful sometimes, but we manage to get things done. And so when I speak about we, I just mean us, team, SBX's team, just the group of people that really we're holding down this the people that are on the ship with me, that I'm steering.
You know, when you mention your team, you can just hear that there's a very solid foundation. There's this togetherness that you guys have. How did you actually go about, putting together a team that, ensures that your best interests are at heart? Considering the fact that there's a lot of people that complain about managers wanting, the same shine, as their artists and such. So how did you go about getting your team together?
Well, for me, like, for example, with my manager, he discovered me.
Nice.
He discovered me on Spotify. So I was lucky in that regard. And we just, you take it day by day and you just make sure that at all times you are on the same page in terms of mentality and how far you want to take this thing with your team. I hate hearing stories about people who have been done dirty by people who are supposed to help them, people who are supposed to help them feed their families and feed themselves and change their lives. I hate that shit because it gives, first of all, the industry a very bad name, and makes people really afraid to work with other people who might have and probably do have their best interests at heart. Because you can't trust anyone. You can't really say that you 110% trust someone. But I also think in my unique experience, I haven't been given reason not to trust. So I will trust until otherwise. But I know that the way life goes, anything can happen. It sucks though. Those kind of stories really suck. And I just wish people would just get it together.
Yeah, same. Looking at the fact that you did move from KZN and went up to Joburg, I want to find out from you if you would ever come back, and become a full-on like Durban musician. Is that something that you feel would be beneficial at all?
At some stage of my career, I want to be based in Cape Town, but still be working in Joburg. So I don't think I'm against that. I think it's, I need to be here for now, at the beginning of everything. But I do think, once, everything gets crazier, I wouldn't mind going to live somewhere else, but still, being in and out of the city. Yeah, I don't think I'm the kind of person to stay in one place for too long. I definitely want to see and live in other places. So I'm not completely against that.
What are your views on this sort of thing going around that Durban isn't exactly the best place, for artists and their growth? I mean, we've seen a lot of artists leave Durban and prosper, especially in the hip hop sort of environment. So what are sort of your views on that? Would you agree with those sentiments that Durban isn't really the best, if you're looking at yourself as an upcoming artist of sorts, or would you say it actually maybe depends on, a few factors?
I think it depends for sure on the artist. I think there's been plenty of artists who've been based in Durban and thrived in Durban. I think it kind of depends on the kind of artist you are and also just the kind of spaces you frequent. I will never say everyone has to come to Joburg, I think everyone has their personal journey that will work for them. So I think it just depends on how far you want to take things and just also what kind of music you're making. Is it music that Durban people like? There's a number of things that could contribute to, how you are or flourish in that space. So yeah, it depends, I think.
Yeah, and being from Empangeni, are there any artists, that you would like to work with that are either from Empangeni or from Durban?
Muzi. If that counts.
Yes, it definitely counts, and I've got my fingers crossed that that actually happens in future. I want us to now focus, we're almost at the end, I want us to focus on For My Brother, which is my number one favorite track, on These Songs Are About You Too. And I want you to sort of dive as deep as you can or as comfortable as you can pertaining that track and the relationship that you had with your brother. One of the reasons why I related to the track so much is because I also had a sibling of mine pass away in 2010. So besides the song actually sort of being different in terms of subject matter, the other songs about romantic relationships, and this year is more of a relationship that you had with a family member, being your brother who is passed on. So tell me a bit more about that and go as deep as you possibly can in terms of the relationship that you guys had and whether he would have been proud of you, or rather whether he supported you when it comes to, music and such.
Yeah, I mean, For My Brother is just one of those songs that I can honestly say was a song that I was a little self-conscious about releasing, and not because I didn't think that anyone would relate to it, but I just didn't know if I wanted to share that story with people, because I knew I was going to be asked it, and I didn't know if I wanted to be asked about it, and I didn't know what that would mean for my journey. But I think it was necessary because then I get to actually speak about it, and speak about it like it's not anything to hide. I get to speak about it, and speak about him, like he is still around, and it helps me with my journey. And even releasing it was necessary because then I got to speak about how his passing made me feel. And he was a protective older brother, who cared a lot about family and cared a lot about me, and I knew that I could always rely on him to protect me, because that was just in his nature. And I mentioned it in the song that I really wish that I could have experienced him now as an adult, in my early 20s, but an adult nonetheless. I really wish it wasn't just teenage, especially because I feel like I've definitely grown, and I really, really wish he could see me now and see everything that I've done, because he was always so supportive of everything that I did. And he would try his best to be present to all these things and support my singing and support my dreams. And he always called me talented. He always thought I was so young yet so talented. I feel like, and I know, and I speak about it in the song as well, that I really hope that he's proud of me, because I know that there's nothing more than there's nothing more that he wanted than for me to be in the position that I'm currently in right now, chasing after my dreams. And honestly, I also really wonder like how he would have felt about, my heartbreaks, and how he would have felt about the things that I've gone through in romantic relationships. Like, I wonder a lot of things. But I think putting those feelings and thoughts into that song was so necessary for me to both understand that that's how I feel, and understand that that's okay to feel that way, and also just to deal and heal, because I can't change anything. But I know that I can, continue speaking about him and writing about him, and answering all these lovely interview questions that I get about the song, and just, healing, dealing, feeling, as one should, as everyone should. And I'm happy when I don't know if happy is the right word, but it warms my heart when people can speak about the song and also mention their own experiences, because it means that I've done something. I've not only maybe healed myself, but I've also, done something for someone else, which is just what I want my music to really do. I really want my music to do shit for people.
I think if you were still around, all the niggas that you're talking about in these songs would be in ICU right now. But yeah, I mean, 2022, what can we sort of expect from you? We obviously got the project out right now, and you've got a music video out. So what else can your listeners sort of expect from you?
A lot more music videos. Definitely music videos, lots of visual content that I'm planning on doing. I don't think we'll be dropping a project anytime soon, but I'm definitely looking into finally doing features, because I've actually never released a feature before, since I dropped music in 2020. So I'm looking at that, collaborating with other artists, spreading my wings. And so people can expect that. They can expect more of me. And yeah.
Hey, that is really awesome. I just want to thank you for, taking time out of your day to have this conversation with me, SBX. And I also want to thank Eddie as well for making this interview possible. It wouldn't have been a thing without him. And obviously, if people want to reach out to you and get in touch, what are your social media handles for them?
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We'll talk about TikTok on another day. But you can find me on all of the social media platforms at SBX Music _ respectively, because I think some of them don't have the underscore, but most of them do. That's where you can find me. And yeah.
Hey, that is very beautiful. SBX is an acronym for Usbatle, right?
Yes.
It's really beautiful. I just want to thank you one more time for joining me on the show, and to all our listeners, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, please don't forget to leave us a review or a rating as well. It's one of the many ways that you can help the podcast, considering that it is free content. We're going to be closing out with Out in Fairland by SBX, the radio edit, of course, and it's a track that I thoroughly enjoy. I hope you guys enjoy it as well. And before we go, don't forget to check out all our episodes as well on our brand new website. It's www.sludgeunderground.com. Social media, we are at Sludge Underground on every single platform. It's just Twitter, where we are at Sludge031. As for myself, it's at Zwane031. From myself and SBX, it is bye for now.
But if you're not for sure, and I just can't be yours, I'm walking out the door. Cause if it's not for sure, I will not try no more. I'm walking out the door. Cause if you're not for sure, and I just can't be yours, I'm walking out the door. Cause if it's not for sure, I will not try no more. I'm walking out the door. I'm trying to see your eyes, try to read your mind. Wanna give you time, but is it worth the time? I don't wanna fight for you, only wanting you. If you're true to me, I wanna feel your love, and you don't need to speak, and I will show my love once you give to me. Baby, you tell me if you wanna take a chance, fly into the sky to hold my hand if you will fucking dance. But if it's not for sure, and I just can't be yours, I'm rocking out the door. Cause if it's not for sure, I will not try no more. I'm walking out the door. Cause if you're not for sure, and I just can't be yours, I'm walking out the door. Cause if it's not for sure, I will not try no more. I'm walking out the door.